Welcome, book nerds. Today I'm interviewing author Jessie Mihalik about her science fiction romance series, Consortium Rebellion. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by Blink YA and The Memory Thief, written by Lauren Mancy. I'm happy to share this young adult fantasy title because it's the Mocha Girls Read National Book Club's October Book of the Month. In the city of Craywick, memories reign. The power-obsessed ruler of the city, Madame, has cultivated a society where memories are currency. Citizens are divided by ability, and gifted individuals can take memories from others through touch as they please. 17-year-old Etta Lark is desperate to live outside of the corrupt culture, but grapples with the guilt of an accident that has left her mother bedridden in the city's asylum. When Madame threatens to put her mother up for auction, a Craywick practice in which a criminal's memories are sold to the highest bidder before being killed, Etta will do whatever it takes to save her. She sets out on a journey in which she faces startling attacks, unexpected romance, and above all, her past in order to set things right in her world. The Memory Thief is available now in hardcover, ebook, and audiobook from your favorite bookseller. Learn more by visiting mochagirlsread.com. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this week's book chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Every week, we get bookish with roundtable book discussions, 5-minute shelf bites, interviews, and more. Subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss out on any of this book nerd awesomeness. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, reach out to me at info@shelfaddiction.com or call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shelf Addiction. The links for everything related to today's episode, including Jessie's social media, are below in the show notes. If you know someone who may enjoy this episode, please share it with them today. Before we get started, let me tell you a bit about today's interview guest. Jessie Mihalik has a degree in computer science and a love of all things geeky. A software engineer by trade, Jessie now writes full-time from her home in Texas. When she's not writing, she can be found playing co-op video games with her husband, trying out new board games, or reading books pulled from her overflowing bookshelves. I was pleased to have this opportunity to interview Jessie Mihalik, and I know you'll enjoy this conversation. Let's jump into the interview. Hey, Jessie, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm super excited to talk to you about your series because I know you just had a brand new release come out. But first, let's talk about you. Are you ready for that?
I am ready.
Okay. Share with us what books you're reading right now.
I just started reading a new release. It's called Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. It's a new space opera, and I'm literally like one chapter in. But it starts with a spaceship cargo hold full of escaped psychic cats. Wow. So I'm super excited to see where it goes from there. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Wow, I think that's a first. Escaped psychic cats. Okay, that's a first for me for sure.
Yeah, it's a first for me as well. And so I'm I want to see what's happening. And we share an editor, the other author, Valerie, and I. So I got an early copy, but it'll be out by the time this is out. So Chilling Effect. I'm hoping for great things here.
Awesome. So do you have any books or even authors that you would say have influenced your writing style?
I like right now I'm friends with Alona Andrews. It's actually a couple that write as a pseudonym, Alona Andrews. But before I even knew them, like theirs, I think was the first book that I picked up where I was like, I want to do that. Like they are doing amazing work and I want to do that. And I'm definitely not at their level, but I would say that they were a strong influence of like, hey, maybe this writing thing, like maybe I could do this.
Yeah. I love their books, by the way.
Their books are so good.
So do you have any favorite authors outside of Alona Andrews that you kind of always recommend to people that you just go to every time someone asks you for a recommendation?
Do you have all day because I have so many favorite authors. I read a lot outside of genre when I'm writing. So I read a lot of historical romance. And Sarah MacLean and Tessa Dare, Beverly Jenkins, like they all write amazing historical romance. That's like my brain candy. Like I just love those books so much. Alyssa Cole has an amazing contemporary series, the Reluctant Royals series. Like those books also I read them and I'm like, I wish I could write like this. So, yeah, I have a lot of favorites, but those are like my top.
Alyssa Cole was on the podcast earlier this year. She's super fun.
Yeah, she's so nice. I've met her a few times at some romance events, and she's so nice.
Yes. Okay, so I would love to know, when you started writing, what inspired you to keep going when you first started? Because I always hear, it's, some people, it's really hard when they get started. What kept you on track?
Well, the Polaris Rising is not the first book I wrote. It's the first book I published, the first book I sold. I wrote an urban fantasy before that that's been kind of trunked for now, and it took forever. But then coming into Polaris Rising, like I was talking to an agent about this other book, and I happened to mention that, oh yeah, I'm writing a science fiction, and she wanted to see it. And then she saw the first 3 chapters and she offered rep on that, which is pretty unusual, and I'm so lucky. But then she's like, when do you think it's going to be done? And that was like in October of one year, and me being just like in complete shock that she wanted to represent me and we wanted to work together, I was like, oh yeah, probably like January. So that was totally on me. And so then there was no time for doubt. It was just write as fast as you can until you get to the end.
Wow. So you were writing like with reckless abandon, like it's gonna get done.
Yeah, pretty much. It was all panic writing at that point. And that's kind of my process still, even now, like knowing deadlines are coming and whatever, like I will start writing and I will get somewhere in the middle, and the middle for me is always like the worst. And so I'll get into the middle and I'll be like, what am I doing? How do I even write? What are words? And then the deadline will start approaching, and then that's like go time.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I too am also kind of like, when the fire's under me, it's like something just clicks and I just go. It's the most crazy thing ever.
Absolutely.
So since you had all that writing to do in a really short amount of time, I'm sure you were like just in your writing space. So I would love to know what that writing space looks like.
For me, I work from home, and so we have, it's supposed to be a formal dining room, but we turned it into our office, because my husband and I both have desks and we play computer games together. And so I have my desk, which is really nice, and I have a super nice chair that I paid too much money for, but I sit in it for, sometimes 10 or 12 hours a day if I'm really in crunch time. And so I have a nice window where I can look outside, and my kitchen is literally 3 steps away. So it's really convenient for me. And if I get really, really stuck, I will actually go out to like a coffee shop and like see other humans, because sometimes it's really easy to just like get stuck in the house and not leave. So I do try and get out and like meet I have some writing friends, so I meet them and we work together just to like have some social interaction. And that generally helps if I'm stuck, because it's just a new environment to give me new ideas. So that's my space.
Okay, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So Consortium Rebellion is your series we're talking about today, but I would love to kind of know how the story for the first book, Polaris Rising, kind of manifested itself when you started writing it.
For that one, I had the opening scene where Ada is getting captured by bounty hunters and she's fighting to escape. Like I had it knocking around in my head for a while, and I was trying to ignore it and write the sequel to the urban fantasy that I didn't publish, when a writer friend of mine was like, hey, like maybe you should try something else before writing the sequel to a book you haven't sold yet. And so she's like, have you thought about science fiction? Not knowing that I already had like this science fiction thought bouncing around in my head. And I was like, maybe you're right. Maybe I should try that. So I am trying to be more of a plotter, but really I'm like a pantser by nature. So I had this opening scene, and I knew like the characters and they were going to get together, but really it was just like explore the world, explore what's going on, and just see what happens as I was writing.
So I've got to know okay, so obviously you like romance, and I'm thinking that's probably why romance is really strong in this series.
Yeah.
But for me, like historically, when I read science fiction, the romance isn't so strong. It's kind of like in the background, if at all. So I found that really refreshing and kind of fun, and like kind of made it more exciting to read that there was a strong romance. How did you kind of decide the balance of how much science fiction-y, techie stuff versus how much romance, drama, and angst to put into this book?
Well, I love reading romance. I would say romance is like 90% of what I read. And so I knew that anything that I was going to write was going to have a strong romantic element just because I love that like happily ever after, like the hope of like seeing two people that are perfect for each other realize they're perfect for each other. So I tried to work that into the science fiction and not have like the science fiction take over, not have the romance take over. And it just kind of naturally evolved this way. And the concern with writing something like this is that science fiction fans sometimes are not super keen on romance, and romance fans are sometimes not super keen if it's not like super romance. So I really tried hard to get that balance right. And I think I did, but I mean, I'm obviously biased.
I agree with you, but again, I am not a hardcore sci-fi reader, so I might, sway more toward the romance in general, but I thought it was good. I really
thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I really loved all the spacey things, learning about the ships and the stuff that they, were kind of, I guess, in the race to kind of make the best product, I guess, or have the best ship. But before we go all into that, I know people are like, what is this book even about, and what are they talking about? So let's back up a few steps. And if you don't mind, just sharing, kind of high level what this series is about.
Okay, so the series is called the Consortium Rebellion series. It's 3 books. Right now, it's going to be a 3-book arc. The first book features Ada and Locke, and Ada is from a really powerful family, but she herself has no personal power in the family. And so her family wants to marry her off, basically, to somebody that she does not care for. And she decided that that was not going to be the life that she wanted to live. So she escapes, runs away from her family. And the book opens with her being captured because her father is finally like fed up with her not like towing the line and conforming. So he sends bounty hunters after her, puts a big bounty on her head. And so bounty hunters have captured her, and she gets thrown into a cell with the universe's like most wanted criminal. To teach her a lesson, basically. The bounty hunters are trying to teach her a lesson. And so these two get together and they decide the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and maybe they can work together to escape. And so it's kind of their shenanigans afterwards of working together, escaping where they are, and they find some intrigue going on with some family drama. So that's kind of high level. The second book is going to be Ada's sister Bianca. So each book has its own happily ever after. It follows a separate couple, and it's going to kind of continue on the overall universe arc, but it's going to be Bianca's story.
You did have kind of a vast world to build as far as just even the society, the power hierarchy, and all these other things. How did you, I know you said you were a pantser, but did you have like any techniques to keep all these different things like straight in your mind as you're reading through, writing through your second book?
I write in a program called Scrivener, which has a section at the top that's your actual like manuscript, and then a section at the bottom that's all your research files. And I have a ridiculous number of research files and like house descriptions, family descriptions, character descriptions, because if I didn't have that, I would not be like, it wouldn't be possible for me to keep it all straight. So I really do have to write everything down. And when I'm exploring the world, I generally focus on characters and build the world around the characters. But then when I do that research, it all goes into the file, because otherwise I'm just like control Fing through the whole document trying to figure out what did I mention this one time, and I just can't keep it straight.
That sounds like a handy tool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like if you're any sort of writer, like I can't recommend Scrivener enough, because you can put photos in there, you can put files in there. It has like built-in character sheets to get you started if you don't have anything that you like already. And it keeps it all like contained in one file where it's all right there.
So no wall of Post-it notes for you.
It was the wall of Post-it notes at one point, and then I realized, because I go and write in other locations sometimes, that my Post-it notes don't travel well. So I try to keep it all digital now, just so that I can keep it all with me no matter where I am. I do love a good Post-it note, but I've tried to break myself of that habit.
If you don't know already, I love a strong leading lady. And Ada is all of that. She is awesome. I really like her. Can you tell me a little bit about, I guess, maybe some influences or things that you were thinking about when you kind of built her character up?
I wanted her to be like self-sufficient and strong, and she's been out on her own for a couple years now. So she stayed ahead of her father's like security forces this whole time. So I knew that she was going to be really capable. So I wanted to, and the way that she's been brought up in the house structure, is she's been raised and trained to basically, when she gets married, go be a spy for her family, in whoever's house she marries into. And this is kind of like the expected behavior. So she has to be smarter than the people that she's going to spy on, because they're going to know. So she's had all of this training, and it was just so fun to put some of that into use. Because I got to play with all these different, like, she can shoot and she can do some basic computer things. And I just really enjoyed playing with that, like having the actual reasoning that she's so capable and then showing that in the real world.
And that also, I think, kind of really allowed her to have a more level playing ground with Locke.
Yes, absolutely.
He's so lethal and just above, like, everything I think she's used to. That allowed her not to be totally outmatched by him. So let's talk about him a little bit. How do you think you achieve the balance between Locke and Ada?
I wanted Ada to have somebody that matched her, but didn't doubt her. Like, I didn't want him to try and think for her. I wanted them to be a really good, balanced, matched couple. So I tried hard to hit that balance of, like, he has his own skills that he's really good at, and Ada has her skills, and together they complement each other really well. And so I was trying hard to have them as a power couple rather than have like one of them be vastly overpowered or underpowered.
Yeah, I think you did that balance well, because I just really think they're like the ultimate power couple, and that's just, they play so well off of each other.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that came through.
Yeah, for sure. And of course the banter and the arguing, the fighting, I just love it all. I love the drama. What do you think is your favorite thing about Locke as a character?
I think my favorite thing is he trusts Ada to do what she says she can do. Like, he pretty quickly realizes that she is super capable, and if she says that she can do something, that he's like, okay, you can do that. Like, that's cool. I'm trusting you to do that. And then they just go and like kick ass together. Oh wait, sorry. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to curse or not, but
no, it's fine.
But together, yeah.
As always with, like, when you have like two main characters like that, there's always like a supporting cast, and this cast was actually really complimentary to them. Do you have a favorite character that you wrote for of that grouping?
I think that I really like Veronica, and I want to tell her story at some point. Because she has a really interesting backstory that, because she is a side character, You don't get into a lot. But I really enjoyed like doing the side characters with their own stories, and hopefully someday I will get a chance to either do a novel or a novella, just like diving into her history.
I think that would be fun to read, actually. Yeah, let me know when you do that.
Yeah.
So did you have any challenges when writing, these first two books, whether it was research or writer's block or anything? Did you experience any issues while you were trying to get these done?
The first one, I was too freaked out to really have any issues because I had put myself under that ridiculous deadline. The second one was actually much harder to write because the first one, your ridiculous deadline notwithstanding, you don't have anything else that's, taking your attention. But when I was writing book two, I was doing edits and copy edits and cover stuff and publishing things for book one. And so I wasn't used to having like that level of distraction come in. And so book two, I struggled with more writing, and I've actually just completed book three. And book three was also the same thing where it's like, there's so many other things going on that I need to get better about managing my time and like dissecting, because I'm really bad at task switching. Like that context switching takes a lot of mental energy for me. So I need to be better about divvying up my time. And with book three, there was definitely some writer's block going on, where I just wasn't 100% sure, because I am a pantser, even though I'm trying to be more of a plotter. Like I kind of knew where the overall plot was going, but I wasn't 100% sure about how to get there. And so that just makes it slow.
Yeah, I bet. And I can only assume that as the series goes on, like with book 2 and 3, we're meeting more characters in addition to not forgetting the other characters.
Exactly.
And their stories. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds intense. Well, I can't wait to read the second one and see how you do, because I'm sure I'll love it.
Well, I hope so. I really hope so. So it's very exciting. Like I did not know, a couple years ago, because I've had the contract. Publishing works so far in advance. I think I got the contract in 2017, and the first two books were coming out in 2019, which seemed so far away. And now it's here, and two books are out, and the third book comes out in May, and it's just incredible.
Oh, wow. That's fast. It's not even a whole year.
I know.
Wow. That's exciting for us people that love series. And I know a group of people that will not start a series until it's finished because they blow through them so fast, so they don't have to wait long to download all three. Yeah. So let's talk about the cover art a little bit. I am drawn to cover art. Sometimes I can be a sucker for it. I know it's not good, but sometimes I am.
Oh, no, I am too.
You are?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I'm not the only one. Did you have any hand in the cover art for your series?
I had a little bit of hand. What they do is they send you some like samples of like, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? And generally, I thought it was awesome. Like, I love both of the covers that I've gotten so far, Polaris and Aurora. But on Polaris, on the first one, I did ask for her to have some like lower body armor, because it's very like low back, upper butt area is very prominent on the cover. So I was like, could you maybe like put some like leg armor on her? And they did not. They did not take that into account. But they did try and put Locke on the cover, kind of like coming out of the mist. And it was not good. And luckily my editor agreed with me that was not the way to go. So we've got this like beautiful cover with just Ada on it. And when we went into the second cover, I was like, hey, I love cover one. I love just having like the woman, the heroine on it. Can we do that with book two? So I did get a little bit more like input into book two. But generally speaking, like they have a vision, and so far their vision is amazing, and I'm super, super lucky. So I'm really excited to see what happens for cover three.
I'm so glad they listened to you, because I mean, I don't have any problem with men on the cover. It's fine most of the time, but that kind of feels like just traditional romance or, you see that a lot in paranormal romance, but the main character is Ada. Like, she's the center. So it makes total sense. And same with the next book, Aurora Blazing, because Bianca is the center.
Yes.
So that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they listened.
Yeah, me too. Like, I have such like a tiny amount of power. But luckily my editor and I were on the same page. And so together we were like, yeah, we're just going to go with a woman.
Good deal. I also really love a good audiobook, and I know that there are audiobooks for both of these. I listened to the first on audiobook, and I believe the narrator was Emily Wu Zeller,
yes.
who was really, really good. I've heard her in other things. Did you also have a little bit to say in the choosing of her?
I did. They sent me a list of about 5 people and asked me to rank, like, who I liked best, basically. And Emily was at the top of my list, and so they got her, and that was amazing. And I have listened to approximately 40 seconds of the audiobook because I find it deeply weird to listen to my own words read to me. I don't know what it is, but something about like somebody else reading my words to me, I find deeply weird. But the amount that I listened to sounded awesome. So I'm glad to hear that the audiobook is great because I listened to it for a very short amount of time. It sounded great, but then I clicked out.
That's so funny. I never heard anyone say that before, but I guess maybe, it might be a little strange.
Yeah, it's the thing is that for her, it's performance as well. Like, she brings her own, thoughts and processes and whatever to it, which is incredible, and she does a great job, but it's not exactly how I would read it because we're two different people, right? And so it's just something about that, like kind of like hearing your own voice recorded, I think. It's kind of on that level of just like, this is a little weird. So that's why I listened to it enough to be like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And then I was out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I definitely recommend the audiobook, guys. So definitely check that out as well. So what are you working on now? So the third book is done and written. What's next on your agenda?
Third book is done. The edits should be landing any day, so I still have to edit it. It's with my editor right now. I have a self-pub series that I post on my blog first as a serial called the Rogue Queen series. And so that's going to start up at probably the end of December. It's kind of up in the air depending on what my other deadlines look like. And that's it's a novella series, but the second one is actually longer than a novella. So I'm still calling it a novella series, but it's short novel series at this point. So that's next. And then the next is figuring out what I'm going to do next, either another arc in the Consortium Rebellion universe, or a whole new series. Probably still going to be science fiction romance, but that's sort of what I'm working on.
I know there are always aspiring writers, people that are hoping to get their first book published. Do you have any advice for them?
Don't give up. Like, get the words written. I know that it's hard. It's so hard to write an entire book. Like, people think that, oh yeah, I could write a novel. But when you actually have to sit down and do it, it takes work. And so don't give up. Edit it as much as you can, but at some point you're going to want to keep tweaking it. And you're not gaining anything at that point. So know when you're done, and then send it out into the world, either self-pub or send it to agents. Like, just keep going is really my best advice.
That's good advice. So keep chipping away.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to share before we move on to the lightning round?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, wonderful. So next up is the lightning round, which is 60 seconds, 60 questions. Some are book related, some are not. I always say 60, but we never get to 60.
I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I always say that. I think it's a goal. I would love someone to actually answer that, but they never can. It's not possible. So, but some questions are open-ended and others require you to pick one or the other. The only one rule I have is that you must choose. You can't say neither and you can't say both.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
I am ready.
Read 5 pages a day or 5 books per week.
5 books.
Physical books or ebooks?
Ooh, ebooks.
Name a book that you've read in one sitting.
Sapphire Flames by Ilona Andrews.
Ooh, good book. Book or beer or wine?
Wine.
If you were forced to live the rest of your life as one of your characters, who would it be?
Oh Probably Ada.
Be a librarian or a bookseller?
Librarian.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
What's your favorite alcoholic mixed drink?
Margarita.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl all the way.
Android or Apple?
Apple.
Name one of your favorite authors.
Lona Andrews.
Series or standalone books?
Ooh, series.
Popcorn or chips?
Chips.
Audiobook or bookish podcast?
Bookish podcast.
All right, and that's a minute.
Wow. That went fast.
Yeah, it always does. And I have my little timer here because I'm like, well, technically that was a minute and 2 seconds, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing that. It was fun. I always enjoy those.
Yeah, those are awesome. Some of those are hard. Like, you're making me choose between things. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I could be all of these things. I want to be both a librarian and a bookseller. I want to read both physical and e.
I understand. I have both, but I'm like, if I had to choose.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing. If I have to choose, I'm going to have to go this way.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I think that is it for today. Do we have anything else that you might want to mention before we sign off?
No, that's about it. New book, Aurora Blazing, just came out, and look on my blog if you're interested in the Rogue Queen series. It should be starting up in late December.
Wonderful. So be sure to follow Jessie on her social media and pick up a copy of both the books in this series. The links are below in the show notes. It's been a pleasure, Jessie.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, happy reading. Take care, guys. If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.